10 years ago in a courtroom in Brookside Ridge, Ohio, I watched my entire world collapse in a matter of minutes. I had prepared myself for an ugly custody hearing. My ex-wife, Karen Whitfield, had already spent months staining me as an unreliable father during our divorce, but nothing could have prepared me for the betrayal that came next, not in my darkest dreams. I remember sitting at the long wooden table, palms damp, heart punching against my ribs like it wanted out, when the bailiff called a witness I didn't expect. The court calls Derek Lawson. Derek. My best friend since high school, my best man at my wedding, the guy who practically lived in my house when he first lost his job. I exhaled in relief at first. I thought he'd come to set the record straight, to push back against Karen's exaggerations, maybe even remind the court that I'd always been the calm one in arguments. But when Derek took the stand, he didn't look at me like a friend. He looked at me like a stranger he'd already decided to hate. His voice shook with rehearsed emotion. I saw Evan violently shake Maya, he said, talking about my daughter, my little girl who had never been afraid of me a single day in her life. He lost control. I was scared for her. My jaw dropped. I could barely understand him, like the air had turned thick and underwater. Then he pulled out evidence, edited clips of me holding Maya as a toddler, laughing, spinning her around, twisted into making me look reckless. Screenshots of text messages that I knew instantly weren't real. Private moments I treasured, warped into weapons I never saw coming. Karen sat there beside her attorney, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue as if Derek's lies were breaking her heart instead of fueling her victory. The judge stared at me with a level of disgust that made my stomach drop. My own lawyer, blindsided, whispered, "Did you really send those messages?" "No," I hissed back. "They're fake." But it didn't matter. In one afternoon, I went from a father fighting to stay present in Maya's life to a man stripped of every right he once had. No visitation, no phone calls, no updates, nothing. The judge's ruling hit me like a shovel to the chest. When the hearing ended, my body went numb. I couldn't even lift my briefcase with my hand shaking. I walked out of the courthouse into the cold November air and collapsed down to the steps for a moment just to breathe. That night at my tiny apartment, RDF packed because I expected to move closer to Maya, I made the worst decision I could have made. I got drunk. So drunk I could barely dial Derek's number. When he finally answered, laughter filled the phone. Cold, smug, triumphant laughter. "You ruined my life," I slurred, tears blurring in my eyes. He laughed harder. "I've wanted Karen for myself for years," he said, voice dripping with an obsession I hadn't seen until it was too late. Then Karen took the phone, her tone sharp as broken glass. "He'll be a better father to Maya than you ever were. You'll never see her again, Evan. Ever." I begged, half because of the whiskey, half because of the heartbreak, to tell me this was some sick joke. It wasn't. Karen told me she and Derek had been sleeping together behind my back for 2 years, that the entire custody case was orchestrated with one goal: remove me from Maya's life, completely. My work cracked open and swallowed me whole. I moved to Maple Glen, Pennsylvania 2 months later. New job, new place, new start, but nothing felt new. The pain came with me like an unwelcome shadow. And yet, even with everything shattered, I still tried. Every year on her birthday, I sent a card. Every holiday, I sent a small gift. Every couple of months, I wrote another letter. I never heard back. Not once. I didn't blame Maya. I knew those things weren't reaching her. Karen had told me she'd lie to our daughter about me forever. But I kept writing anyway, because it was the only lifeline I had left. 10 years passed. 10 long years filled with nights wondering if Maya believed I abandoned her, wondering if she grew up thinking I didn't care. Then one Tuesday afternoon, as I was rearranging old storage boxes in my apartment, my phone rang with a number from Ohio. "Hello? This is Evan Hale." "Yes, this is the emergency department at St. Eldon Medical Center. Your daughter, Maya Hale, has been admitted following a motor vehicle accident. You are listed as her emergency contact." My heart stopped. What happened? Is she okay?" "She's stable. You can come see her." Stable. Not safe, not unhurt, just stable. I didn't even pack. I grabbed my keys, left my front door hanging unlocked behind me, and drove through 5 hours of interstate highway in a blur of panic, hope, and disbelief. How was she my emergency contact? Did Karen forget to remove my number? Did Maya put me down herself? That thought made my hand shake harder on the wheel. When I walked into the hospital waiting room, I froze. Karen was there, and Derek, sitting together, like the last 10 years had been one long honeymoon. They looked up at me, jaws dropping in shock. They didn't ask how the drive was. They didn't say hello. They didn't ask if I was okay. Instead, Karen stood quickly and marched toward the nurse's station, probably to warn them that the dangerous father had arrived, which left me alone with Derek. He looked at me up and down, smirking like the same arrogant man who laughed on the phone a decade ago. "You look gruff, Evan. Guess time wasn't kind to you." I didn't answer. He did that thing he always did, leaned in like he was going to confess something meaningful. Instead, he whispered, "You know what the funniest part is?
She never saw a single thing you sent. Not one letter, not one card. We threw them all away." He chuckled. "You're welcome. Saved her from getting her hopes up about a dad who wasn't around." My hands clenched so hard that my palms stung. "And hey," he added, playing the victim now, "raising her wasn't easy. Kids need structure, discipline. You know how it is." I stepped closer, fist trembling. "What did you do to her, Derek?" A voice, weak, cracked, small, came from behind the curtain beside us. "Dad." I spun so fast I nearly lost balance. There she was, Maya, my little girl, except she wasn't little anymore. 16 now, eyes older than they should be, a bandage around her head, her arm in a cast. But her eyes, God, her eyes still had that warm amber glow I remembered from when she was 5. I moved toward her slowly, terrified I might scare her, terrified she might push me away, but she didn't. She whispered again, "Dad?" My chest caved inward. I hadn't heard that word in a decade. I stood there frozen, overwhelmed, crying like an idiot, until a nurse came in and Ken stormed back into the room, demanding the nurse throw me out. "She's not family anymore," she snapped. But for once in her life, she didn't get the final say, because the nurse looked at Maya and gently asked, "Who do you want to stay with you?" Everyone held their breath. Karen's voice cracked as she tried to cut in. "She's in minor, I decide." But Maya said, clear and certain, "I want my dad." That was the moment everything changed. The nurse asked Karen and Derek to step out. They protested, they threatened, they hissed into their breath, but eventually they left. And for the first time in 10 years, I sat beside my daughter, not in a courtroom, not in a nightmare, not in a memory, in real life. Her voice trembled. "They told me you left. They told me you didn't want me." I felt something inside me break, clean in half. "It's not true," I said, barely able to breathe. "I never stopped loving you, never stopped trying." She swallowed hard. "I never got anything from you." "I know," I whispered. "They kept everything." Tears filled her eyes. And then she asked the question I had feared for 10 years. "Dad, did you ever hurt me when I was little?" "No," I said instantly, leaning closer. "Never. I would never, ever hurt you." She wiped her nose with her good hen. "Then why would they lie?" I looked toward the curtain where Derek had stood a few minutes earlier. "They wanted a family of their own," I said softly, "and they thought the easiest way was to erase me." She closed her eyes, as if the weight of that truth hit her all at once. I reached for a red hand, and this time she didn't pull away. "We'll get through this," I whispered. And for the first time in 10 years, I believed it.
The hours after Maya chose me over Karen and Derek felt unreal, like I slipped into some fragile dream that might dissolve if I blinked too hard. I kept expecting the nurse to come back and say there'd been some misunderstanding, that I wasn't allowed back, that the papers had been updated, that I should leave. But it didn't happen. Instead, Maya and I sat together in the quiet room, the steady beep of her heart monitor filling the tense silence between us. I wanted to ask her 1,000 questions. I wanted to flood her with reassurances, promises, explanations, anything to mend the decade of distance carved between us. But every time I opened my mouth, the words stuck to my throat like glue. It was Maya who finally broke the silence. "Dad, can I ask you something?" A decade disappeared from her voice in that moment. She sounded like the little girl who used to sit on my shoulders at the zoo, pointing at giraffes and asking if they were real-life dinosaurs. I said anything. She filled it with the blanket, eyes lowered. "Why didn't you fight for me harder?" It was a knife in my chest. Not because she meant it cruelly, but because she had every right to ask. "Maya," I said gently, "I did fight. I fought until I had nothing left. But they lied. They had friends lie. They created fake messages, fake evidence. I didn't stand a chance once the judge believed them." Her face twisted, hurt, confusion, something else I couldn't name. "But I was just a kid. Why didn't anyone ask me what I wanted?" I shook my head. Guilt pounded through me. "Because you were too young for the court to reside on. And Derek, he was convincing. He practiced sounding fatherly and concerned. The moment he said he saw you hurt me, I paused, swallowing the burn rising in my throat. Everything fell apart. But Maya wasn't satisfied yet. "Did Mom know everything was fake?" she asked quietly. There was the question she had probably been swallowing for years. "Yes," I said without hesitation.
She and Derek planned the entire thing. Her breath hitched. It wasn't shock on her face. It was recognition. Like she'd always felt something was wrong, but never had the courage or proof to confirm it. The curtain at the far end of the room rustled, broke in this moment. A nurse stepped inside, checking monitors and writing notes. "Can I get you anything? Water, a blanket?" "No, I'm okay," Maya said, though she clearly wasn't. The nurse nodded sympathetically. "If you need privacy, I can keep your visitors limited. Just let me know." When she left, Maya looked toward the door as if she expected Karen to burst in again. "They're gonna be so mad when they found out I told you to stay." "Do you want them here?" I asked. "No," she whispered immediately. "Not right now." That shook me more than anything. If Maya didn't want a mother or stepfather near her, something very serious had happened long before the crash. She pulled her knees up slightly, winced from the pain, and lowered them again. "Dad, can I tell you something? But you can't yell, and you can't leave." My heart crawled into my throat. "I won't yell, and I'm not going anywhere." She nodded slowly, eyes on the blanket. "Derek, he's not who he pretends to be." That was the softest, weakest version of a truth I suspected for years. "What happened?" I asked gently. She hesitated, and for a moment I thought she might shut down completely. But then she exhaled, voice trembling. "He drinks a lot. Every night. And when he drinks, he gets mean, not just to Mom, to me. He says I'm ungrateful, that I don't deserve the things they do for me. Sometimes he don't, I don't know. He gets scary." I forced myself to breathe, forced myself not to react with the rage boiling under my skin. "How long has it been like that?" I asked. "Since I was like 11, maybe younger. I don't know. It got worse after Noah was born." Her half-brother, Karen and Derek's son. "What about your mom?" I asked carefully. "Does she step in?" Maya's eyes dimmed. "Sometimes she tries. Sometimes she just tells me to try harder or not talk back. Mostly she tells me that Derek's stressed and that I make things worse. But I don't try to. I swear, I don't try to." I reached out instinctively and covered her hand with mine. "You don't deserve that. None of this is your fault." Her chin quivered. "Mom says you were dangerous, that you were angry all the time, that she left you because she was scared I might get hurt." I felt like I had been punched. "That's not true," I said softly. "I never laid a hand on you. I never hurt Karen either. We had arguments, but nothing like what Derek has done." "That's what Emma told me," she said suddenly. "Emma? My friend. She's the one who told me to call you if I ever felt unsafe. She said I should hear your side before believing everything I've been told." A wave of gratitude for that girl washed over me. "That was very brave of her," I said. Maya nodded. "She helped me look you up. I saw pictures of you, like recent ones. You look lonely, but not dangerous." That hit me harder than anything else she had said. "Why didn't you call sooner?" I asked, voice soft. "I was scared," she admitted. "I didn't know what was true. And Derek always said if I tried to contact you, he'd punish me. Or he'd send Noah away to some military school when he got older. Mom said I needed to stop asking about you or I'll ruin the family." Every word twisted deeper under my ribs. "Did you hurt you?" I asked quietly. She hesitated. Her silence was an answer. Not like that," she said quickly. "But Derek grabs my arm sometimes, or yells in my face, or throws things. He calls me names when he gets drunk, says I'm just like you, that I'm nothing, that I ruin everything." Her voice cracked. I felt something inside me snap. "Maya, listen to me," I said firmly. "None of that is normal. None of that is love. That's abuse. And it's not okay." She looked at me with wide, shaky eyes. Do you still love me?" I leaned closer, my voice breaking. "I never stopped. You've been my daughter in every heartbeat I've had since the day you were born. A tear slid down her cheek. I'm sorry, she whispered. For what? For believing them. I shook my head immediately. You were a child. You were manipulated. None of this was your fault. Before she could answer, the door opened slowly. A woman I recognized from photos, Claire Monroe, the CPS worker who handled cases for years in Brookside Ridge, stepped into the room with a clipboard under her arm. Hello, Maya, she said kindly. I'm Claire. I met you in the ER when you first arrived, remember? Maya nodded timidly. Claire turned to me. You're Evan, correct? Yes. She glanced at her paperwork. I'd like to talk to both of you separately and together. A nurse reported concerns about potential domestic issues involving the stepfather. Maya, you don't have to speak if you don't want to, but anything you say can help us make sure you stay safe. Karen and Derek must have set off alarms when they came in earlier, maybe yelling, maybe arguing, maybe trying to control what Maya said. I stepped aside, giving Maya space. It's okay, I said softly. You can tell her the truth. Anything you want, I'm not going anywhere. Claire invited her to speak first. Maya looked between us, gathering courage. I didn't know she had left. Then she started talking, slowly at first, then steadily. She told Claire about Derek's drinking, about the yelling, about the bruises she tried to hide, about the nights she cried herself to sleep because she was terrified her stepfather would barge into her room during one of his drunken rages. Claire didn't interrupt her. She nodded gently, took notes, and kept her voice steady. When she finished, Claire looked at me. Given what I've just heard, I'm placing an immediate protective order. Maya cannot be released into Derek or Karen's care. A shock of emotion hit me so hard I had to grip the back of a chair. Who will she stay with? Maya asked. Claire turned to her. With your biological father, if he's willing. I didn't even let a single second pass. Yes, I said firmly, absolutely. Maya's lips parted slightly as if she hadn't dared to hope for that outcome. I said gently, you'll stay with me. No matter how long it takes, we'll figure everything out. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Dad, I'm scared, I said next to her, brushing the hair from her forehead. I know, but I got you now, and I'm not letting anyone hurt you again. She leaned her head lightly against my arm, careful not to disturb her bandages, and for the first time since she was 6 years old, I watched my daughter fall asleep, knowing I was right beside her, protecting her, loving her, finally being able to be her father again.
Maya stayed asleep for almost 2 hours after Claire left. I didn't move from my chair, not once. I just sat there, watching her breathe, watching her chest rise and fall, memorizing the little things I'd missed during the 10 years stolen from me. The freckles across the bridge of her nose, the faint curl in her hair, the soft crease she still had between her brows when she dreamed. She wasn't a little girl anymore, but she wasn't quite grown either. She was stuck somewhere in the middle, a place where the world should feel wide open and full of possibility. Instead, she'd been living under the roof of a man who saw her as a nuisance and a girl who needed breaking. And now everything she had ever believed about me, about her family, about her own past, was collapsing around her all at once. I felt helpless watching her sleep. I wanted to turn time backward. I wanted to erase Derek Lawson from her life entirely. I wanted to go to war with the version of myself the courts had painted years ago and claw my way back into the truth. But all I could do was wait. While I sat there, my lawyer, Daniel Rourke, called back. He'd seen the missed calls I'd left while speeding from Pennsylvania to Ohio. Evan, he said without greeting, your daughter is at the hospital? Are you with her? Yes, she's safe, but the situation is complicated. I stepped outside the room so I wouldn't wake Maya. What happened? Daniel asked. I explained everything. The accident, the hospital call, Maya choosing me over Karen and Derek, the CPS involvement. I could practically hear him straightening in his chair on the other end of the line. You're telling me that after 10 years of no contact, you were listed as Maya's emergency contact? That's what the hospital told me. That's very interesting. Either Karen made a mistake or Maya updated her own file at school or somewhere else. I think she did, I whispered. She hinted she'd been thinking about me for a long time. There was a pause. This could be huge, Evan.
If she deliberately put you down as her contact, it means she was reaching out in whatever way she could. Courts pay attention to that. Before I could respond, the door at the end of the hallway slammed open. I didn't even need to look to know who it was. Derek Lawson marched through the corridor like a bull charging at a matador. Karen trailed behind him, pale and frantic, whispering him to calm down. Derek ignored her completely. My jaw tightened. "I have to call you back," I muttered to Daniel, ending the call. Derek stormed straight toward me. "You son of a—" he spat, stopping only when a nurse appeared at the desk behind me. "Sir," she warned, holding up her hand, "you need to lower your voice. This is a hospital." He took a step back, but his eyes stayed locked on mine, burning with fury. He hissed. "What lies have you been feeding her? What did you tell her to turn her against us?" I almost laughed. "Turn her against you, Derek? You did that yourself." His face twisted into something ugly. "You think you're going to steal her back after 10 years? You're delusional. She's ours. I raised her." My stomach churned. "You tormented her," I corrected. He lunged, but Karen grabbed his arm desperately. "Derek, stop. Not here." "Let him try," I muttered, staring him down. "One swing. That's all it'll take for CPS to remove both of you permanently." He froze, teeth clenched. Then a voice came from behind us. "Mr. Lawson." We turned. Claire Monroe was standing at the end of the hallway, clipboard in hand, eyes cold and sharp. Karen shrank instantly. Derek stiffened. Claire approached with calm authority. "I need to speak with both of you in a private room, now." "For what?" Derek demanded. "Because your daughter reported extensive domestic concerns, and we have to evaluate those claims before she's discharged." Derek's face reddened. "She's lying. She's emotional. She's being manipulated by him." His finger jabbed toward me. Claire remained unmoved. "We'll discuss that inside." Karen swallowed hard, eyes darting between all of us. "Claire, please, there must be a misunderstanding. Maya gets confused. She exaggerates." But Claire's face did not soften. "Mrs. Whitfield, you are welcome to explain your side of things, but Maya's statements were clear and consistent." Karen went pale. Claire pointed toward a conference room down the hall. "Both of you, now." Derek opened his mouth, but Karen tugged him away. They disappeared behind the door, leaving the hallway quiet again. I exhaled a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. For the first time in years, the truth was actually on my side. I stepped back into Maya's room. She was awake now, rubbing her eyes gently with her uninjured hand. When she saw me, she offered a small, tired smile. "Are they gone?" "For now," I said, sitting beside her again. "Claire is talking with them." She leaned back against her pillows. "They're going to freak out." "I know," I said, "but none of that is your problem anymore. You don't have to protect them. You don't have to protect anyone but yourself." She bit her lip. "I feel guilty." "For what?" "For telling the truth." I took her hand again. "Maya, telling the truth is not betrayal. What they've done to you for years, that's betrayal." Her eyes watered. She blinked quickly, trying to brush the tears away. "Can I ask you something else?" she asked softly. "Of course. When I was little, before everything happened, was I happy?" The question broke me. "You were the happiest kid I'd ever seen. You loved drawing, you loved the swings at the park, you loved pancakes on Sunday mornings, and you used to fall asleep on my chest when we watched movies, and you never looked at me with fear, not even once." She swallowed hard. "I don't remember any of that," she whispered. "It's like my childhood started at Derek's house." It felt like a blade turning between my ribs. "That's because they did everything they could to rewrite your memories, but the real ones, they're still in you. Maybe buried, but they're there." She nodded slowly. "I hope so." Just then, Claire returned. She stepped inside the room and closed the door behind her. "Everything okay?" I asked. She let out a long exhale. "It was tense, but it helped clarify a lot." "Are they still lying?" Maya asked. "Oh yes," Claire said. "Your stepfather says you're acting out for attention. Your mother claims you're misremembering things." Maya looked away, jaw tightening. But, Claire added, their stories did not match each other, and they did not match the details you provided earlier. In fact, they contradicted themselves several times. That surprised Maya. It did not surprise me at all. Claire sat at the edge of the bed. I need to ask both of you one more question. This will help determine next steps. Maya, Claire said gently, do you feel safe going home with either Karen or Derek? Maya did not hesitate. No. Claire nodded. Then she turned to me. Evan, are you willing to take temporary custody until the full evaluation is complete? I didn't even let her finish. Yes. Maya let out a small, shaky breath of relief. All right, Claire said. I'll draft the paperwork. You'll need to remain in Ohio until the hearing. It won't take long, likely within a week, but until then, Maya stays with you. Karen and Derek were going to lose their minds, but it didn't matter. This wasn't about them anymore. It was about my daughter. Claire stood to leave, then paused. One more thing, she said. When she's discharged tomorrow, take her somewhere quiet, somewhere calm. She's processing a lot, and she's going to need space. I know just the place. After she left, Maya looked at me with a mixture of fear and hope. Dad, is this really happening? Am I really going with you? Yes, I said softly, if you want to. She pressed her lips together, tears welling again. I want to. I really want to. I leaned forward and kissed her forehead gently. Then that's exactly what we'll do. For the first time since she was 6 years old, my daughter was coming home with me.
The next morning arrived slowly, with the soft hum of hospital machines and the pale winter sunlight leaking through the blinds. Maya had slept better than the night before, though every now and then she'd twitch or shift with the quiet winds. Pain medication kept her comfortable, but emotional exhaustion hung on her like an extra weight. When the nurse came in to remove her IV and go over discharge instructions, Maya kept glancing at the door, half expecting her mother or Derek to burst in and demand control again. But they didn't show, not once. Maybe Claire had warned them. Maybe they were gathering lawyers. Maybe they were too ashamed to face the truth head-on. Whatever the reason, Maya's hands trembled as she tied her backpack and slid one strap over her shoulder. "You okay?" I asked softly. She stared at her shoes. "It doesn't feel real yet." "I know." The nurse handed me paperwork and a small envelope of instructions. She needs rest, no heavy activity. If she feels dizzy, bring her back, and make sure she eats something soon. "I will," I said. Maya walked beside me slowly as we exited the room. Her steps were careful, her calves cradled against her side. The walk down the hallway would have felt peaceful if not for the knot in my stomach. Every step closer to the elevator felt like stepping toward a new life neither of us was prepared for. When the elevator doors slid open, Maya suddenly froze. "Dad, wait." I turned. She swallowed, hesitated, then reached for my hand. Awkwardly, timidly, her fingers cold and shaky, but she reached, and I took her hand without a second thought. We walked out of the hospital like that, hand in hand, father and daughter, after 10 stolen years. The drive to my rented condo on Brookside Ridge was quiet at first. She stared out the window, watching the passing buildings with a sort of distant expression I'd seen in trauma survivors. Every now and then she'd look at her phone, then lock it immediately, like she was afraid of incoming messages. Finally, she broke the silence. "Do you think Mom's mad at me?" I tightened the grip on the steering wheel. I think she's scared. "Of what?" "Of the truth coming out and of losing you." Maya let out a long, shaky breath. She said he would try to take me away, that he would brainwash me into thinking she was a bad mom. I glanced at her. She was staring at the dashboard, biting her lip. "I'm not trying to take you away from anything, but I won't let anyone hurt you. Not her, not Derek, not anyone. You get to decide what your life looks like, Maya, not them." She blinked rapidly, eyes shiny but sternly resisting tears. "No one's ever said that to me." The words should have been comforting. Instead, they gutted me. My condo was in a small complex, quiet, private, tucked behind a row of tall pine trees. I'd planned to move back to Pennsylvania after my storage contract expired, but now everything had changed. When we walked inside, Maya paused just past the door. Her eyes roamed across the living room. Modest furniture, a few bookshelves, framed photos, mostly landscapes. Not much personality, not much color.
A bachelor cave built for survival, not comfort. Her gaze stopped at one single framed photo on the shelf. A picture of her. She was 5 years old in it, wearing a red jacket, cheeks flushed, sitting on my shoulders as she pointed at a snowman we'd built. I'd almost taken the photo down during darker times, but I never could. She walked toward it slowly, touching the frame lightly with her fingertips. "You kept this?" I swallowed hard. I kept everything. She stared at the photo for a long time before setting it back carefully as though it were something fragile. "Dad, does it feel weird that I'm here?" "No," I said instantly. It feels right. It feels like something that should have never been taken away." She nodded softly. Then her stomach growled, and she flushed red. Sorry." I couldn't help smiling. "You hungry?" She nodded again. "I didn't eat much at the hospital." I figured. I gestured toward the kitchen. "Come on, I'll make something." She followed me to the kitchen table and sat while I made scrambled eggs and toast. Simple, but the way she watched me, you'd have thought it was a 5-star meal. When I set the plate in front of her, she stared at it for a moment. "What's wrong?" I asked. She shook her head. "Nothing. Just... no one's cooked for me in a long time. Not like this. Not just because they had to." I sat down across from her. "Well, get used to it. I plan on feeding you regularly." She smiled, a real one this time, small but real, and it lit up her entire face in a way that made my chest tighten. She ate slowly, savoring every bite, as if she was memorizing the moment, and I sat there memorizing her. After breakfast, she wandered the condo as I cleaned up. She peeked into the spare room, empty except for an air mattress and a lamp. I told her she can have that room. "But there's nothing in it. I'll buy whatever you want. Bed, desk, decorations, you'll decide everything." She looked at me skeptically. "You don't have to go crazy. I don't need much. You deserve a real space. Your own space. Tell me what you like. Colors, furniture, anything, and we'll make it exactly how you want." She blushed again. "I don't know what I like." "That's okay," I said gently. "We'll figure it out together." As the afternoon passed, she became more relaxed, exploring the bookshelves, scrolling quietly on her phone, even sitting on the balcony for a while with the blanket over her cast. But every so often, her face would crumple in thought. Something heavy weighed on her, and I didn't push. I knew she needed time. Around 4, her phone buzzed. Her entire body tensed. She turned it face down on the couch without checking it. "Maya, you can look if you want." She hesitated, then slid the phone toward me. "Okay, yeah." I picked it up and unlocked the screen. A string of notifications filled the screen. From Karen, "Where are you? We told the staff you weren't allowed to leave with him. You're making a huge mistake. Pick up your phone now." Then Derek, "You lied to CPS. Fix this now. If you don't come home tonight, don't bother coming back at all. You're ruining your family." My blood boiled. I showed Maya the screen. Her eyes glistened. "See, I knew they'd blame me. You haven't done anything wrong. They're going to say I'm overreacting, that I'm confused, that I'm betraying them." "Maya, listen to me," I said firmly. "They're manipulating you. Choice doesn't equal betrayal. Abuse doesn't equal love." She hugged her knees to her chest. "I hate this," she whispered. "I hate that part of me still cares what they think." "That's normal. They raised you. They controlled you. It takes time to untangle from that." She looked at the messages again, then placed the phone to face down once more. "Can I block them?" she asked. "You can, or you can silence them. Whatever feels safest to you." She took a breath and opened her phone. She didn't block them, but she muted the conversation and turned off message previews. A small step, but a powerful one. Later that evening, the doorbell rang. Maya stiffened instantly. "Dad, who is it?" I peeked through the peephole. "Don't worry, it's Claire." I opened the door, and she stepped inside with a folder in her hands. "Sorry for the late visit. I wanted to update you both on the situation." Maya stood near the couch, arms tucked close like she was bracing herself. Claire smiled gently. "I have some good news." Maya blinked. "Good news?" "Yes. After reviewing your statements and interviewing your mother and stepfather, we're filing an emergency protection petition. A judge will review it tomorrow morning." My heart began to race. "And if it's approved," Claire continued, "you'll remain in your father's care until the full custody hearing. You won't have to see Derek or your mother unless you choose to. Maya's breath trembled. Really? Really, Claire said. But there is something you need to know. We both waited. Your mother is insisting she had no idea Derek was hurting you. She claims she acted differently when she wasn't around. Maya shook her head immediately. Just not true. She knew. She always knew. I believe you, Claire said, but I have to warn you. She's going to fight hard. Maya's voice cracked. I don't want to go back. You won't, I said, stepping beside her. She leaned against me slightly, her fingers trembling. Claire closed her folder. Tomorrow was the first step. It's not the final battle, but it's a strong one. Thank you, I said. She nodded. I'll see you both in court in the morning. When she left, Maya stared at the closed door for a long time. Then she whispered, Dad, can I stay in your room tonight? Just until I fall asleep. I didn't hesitate. Of course. She slept curled under an extra blanket on the floor beside my bed, refusing the mattress because it feels safer here. And as I watched her breathing slow, watched her finally relax into the comfort of knowing someone would protect her, I realized something. Tomorrow wouldn't just be a hearing. It would be the beginning of getting my daughter back. Forget this time.
Morning came early. Too early. I barely slept, partly because Maya was on the floor beside my bed, partly because every noise made her flinch awake. She pretended she wasn't scared, but I saw the tension in her shoulders, the way a breath hitched every time a car drove past outside. At 6 a.m., I gently woke her. Hey, I whispered, we have to get ready for court. She blinked sleepily, then sat up, clutching the blanket around her. Okay. We moved slowly through the morning. I made breakfast, toast and fruit, because that's all she could stomach, and she sat quietly at the table, staring at her cast. When she caught me watching her, she offered a shy, nervous smile. Do you think, she hesitated, do you think the judge will believe me? Yes, I said. You're brave, you're honest, and you have evidence on your side. She nodded, though anxiety clung to her like a shadow. The courthouse felt colder than it should have. Maybe it was the polished marble floors or the echo of distant conversations. Maybe it was because 10 years ago these halls had stolen her from me. Now they might give me back. Maya stayed close to my side when we walked in. She stiffened visibly when she saw her mother standing near the benches. Karen looked terrible, disheveled, eyes red-brimmed like she hadn't slept. But the moment she saw Maya holding onto my arm, something venomous flickered across her expression. Before she could storm over, Daniel Rourke approached, carrying a thick folder. Evan, Maya, he greeted. Maya managed a small nod. Daniel turned to me. Claire submitted a report late last night. It's strong, very strong. If the judge takes it seriously, you have a real chance at temporary custody. Temporary. Well, temporary was a start. A few seconds later, the conference room door opened, and Claire Monroe stepped out. She smiled gently at Maya. Everything's ready. Are you okay to speak today? You don't have to if you're overwhelmed. Maya swallowed hard. I can do it. Karen overheard that and rushed forward. Maya, please don't do this. You don't understand how much trouble you're causing. Derek is furious. He's in to sleep all night. Maya flinched. I stepped in between them instantly. Karen, I said, voice low, back off. She glared at me. You don't get to tell me what to do. She's my daughter. She's mine too, and she deserves safety, something you failed to give her. Karen's expression twisted. You poisoned her against us. She was fine before you showed up. She was being abused before I showed up. Karen turned pale. You don't know what you're talking about. She told me everything. Everything Derek did. Everything you ignored. Karen's composure unraveled. Tears filled her eyes, not the crocodile tears she used during the custody hearing 10 years ago. Real ones. I wasn't ignoring her, she whispered. You don't understand. Derek gets upset sometimes, yes, but he's stressed, and he never meant to hurt her. Maya's face hardened with an anger I hadn't seen in her before. He made me afraid to go home, she said quietly. You boasted. Karen flinched as if struck. Claire intervened gently. Let's head inside. We'll handle this calmly. The hearing room was small, nothing like the large courtroom from 10 years ago. This room looked more like a meeting space with a long table and muted lighting. A judge in a gray suit sat behind a modest bench. He scanned the room as we entered.
Case of Hale versus Whitfield. This is an emergency protective hearing concerning the minor Maya Whitfield. Maya squeezed my sleeve. I squeezed back. The judge adjusted his glasses. Miss Monroe, please proceed. Claire stood. Her professionalism was unwavering. Your Honor, during a hospital visit following a motor vehicle accident, Maya privately disclosed a pattern of emotional and physical intimidation by her stepfather, Derek Lawson. She expressed sustained fear of returning to her home environment. Her statements were detailed, consistent, and delivered voluntarily without coercion. Karen shifted in her seat, eyes darting. Claire continued. When interviewed, Mr. Lawson displayed hostility, volatility, and contradictory statements. Mrs. Whitfield minimized the concerns and contradicted Maya's timeline. Based on the totality of the interviews, Maya's testimony was found credible. The judge nodded slowly. And the recommended action? A temporary protective order and temporary placement with her biological father, Evan Hale. My heart thudded loudly in my chest. The judge turned to Maya. Ms. Whitfield, I know this is difficult. Is there anything you'd like to add? You may speak freely. Maya's lip trembled. She looked at me, then at Karen, then at her own hands, and then she spoke. Her voice was quiet at first, but steady. My stepfather drinks a lot. When he does, he yells, throws things. Sometimes he grabs me and it leaves bruises. He tells me I ruin everything. He says I'm just like my real dad, and that's not a good thing. Karen burst into tears. Maya continued, eyes glistening. I told my mom a lot of times, but she always said he didn't mean it or that I needed to behave better. I stopped telling her because it just made things worse. She swallowed hard. I called my dad because Emma, my friend, told me maybe he still cared. And when the hospital called him instead of Derek, it felt like something finally went right. The judge leaned forward. Do you feel safe with your father? Maya nodded immediately. Yes. Do you feel unsafe returning to your mother and stepfather? Yes, she whispered. Karen sobbed harder. Derek wasn't present. He refused to attend, citing stress. The judge sat back in silence for a long moment. Then he spoke. Ms. Whitfield, it is clear you are emotionally distressed, but distress does not negate your responsibility to protect your child. Mr. Lawson's absence today is troubling. His behavior, as reported, is unacceptable. Karen covered a face with her hands. The judge turned towards me. Mr. Hale, 10 years ago you lost custody under unusual circumstances. I'm aware of the prior accusations, but given recent developments, past records warrant reevaluation. My pulse hammered. He continued, effective immediately, custody of Maya Whitfield is granted to her biological father on a temporary basis under CPS supervision. Maya sobbed softly. Karen's head snapped upward. No, please, she belongs to me. The judge raised a hand. Mrs. Whitfield, until these allegations are explored fully, returning her to that environment would be irresponsible. Karen broke down completely. Maya stared at me in unbelief. Then the judge added something I hadn't expected. Additionally, I am ordering a formal investigation into potential prior misconduct regarding the original custody proceedings. My breath caught. Karen froze. The judge continued, if evidence was falsified or testimony manipulated, those responsible will face legal consequences. Karen shook her head wildly, whispering, No, 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 no. The gavel struck the wooden block. The room fell silent. Hearing adjourned. As we stepped into the hallway, Maya leaned against me, overwhelmed. I didn't think he'd actually say yes, I said, brushing her hair back gently. You were brave. You told the truth. That's all it took. Karen stumbled towards us. Mascara streaked down her face. Maya, please, listen to me. I didn't know he was hurting you. I didn't know it was that bad. If I had known... You did know. I told you. You chose him. Her breath broke in her chest. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Maya turned away, tears sliding silently down her cheeks. I stepped between them. "She needs space. Trying to force this now will only make it worse." Karen opened her mouth, but Claire touched her arm. "Let them go. This is about Maya's healing now, not your guilt." Karen slumped backward onto a bench, sobbing. I placed my hand on Maya's back. "Come on." We walked out of the courthouse together. This time, she didn't hide her tears. She didn't look back. And she didn't let go of my arm. When we got back to the condo, Maya went straight to the balcony and sat cross-legged, staring at the pine trees swaying in the wind. I stepped outside a few minutes later and sat beside her, giving her room to breathe. She spoke first. "Do you think Mom meant it? That she's sorry?" "Yes, but being sorry doesn't fix what she let happen." She nodded slowly. "I love her, but I don't trust her." "That's okay. Trust has to be earned, not demanded." She wiped her cheeks with her sleeve. "I feel guilty." "For what?" "For telling the truth." I shook my head. "The truth is never something to feel guilty about." She leaned her head on my shoulder. "Dad, can we stay here for a while? Just us?" "Yeah, as long as you want." We sat together in silence, watching the trees sway, and for the first time in a decade, the world didn't feel like it was collapsing. It felt like it was finally beginning.
The first few days after the court hearing moved both fast and painfully slow. Maya spent a lot of time sleeping, something she hadn't been able to do peacefully in years. Traumatic exhaustion, Claire called it. When a person finally feels safe after years of survival mode, their body crashes. She'd wake up sometimes from short naps, confused about where she was, then relax again when she saw me sitting nearby or heard my footsteps in the kitchen. She clung to small reassurances. The sound of my voice in the next room, the smell of food cooking, the warmth of the condo's soft lighting. And every time she looked at me with that mix of trust and fear of losing me again, something inside my chest ached, but in a healing way. On the fourth morning, as sunlight filtered across the living room floor, she shuffled out of the guest room, holding her cast gently. "Dad?" she said quietly. "Yeah?" She hesitated. "Can we go to the park? Just a little? I feel kind of trapped inside." "Of course," I said. "Fresh air might help." She smiled weakly. The park in Brookside Ridge wasn't anything spectacular, some swings, a pond, a jogging path, but that morning it felt like a new beginning. Maya walked slowly beside me, her steps cautious but steadier than before. She stopped at the pond's edge and lowered herself carefully onto a bench. "Do you ever feel like you're living someone else's life?" "All the time," I admitted, sitting beside her, "especially after they took you away. I woke up for years thinking it was all a dream, that any second someone would knock on my door and say there'd been a mistake, that you wanted to come home." She didn't respond immediately. She was watching the ducks paddle by, her good hand picking out a loose thread on her sleeve. "I used to dream about you," she whispered. "But Mom said dreaming about you meant I was being ungrateful. She said you were dangerous, that you forgot about me." "Maya," my throat tightened. "I never forgot you. Not for 1 second." She looked down. "I know that now. I wish I'd known earlier." I reached over and gently squeezed her hand. She didn't pull away. "You found your way back," I said. "That's what matters." She nodded. Then her voice dropped. "Do you think I'll ever be normal again?" "Normal?" I repeated. "Kid, you survived years of emotional manipulation, fear, and pressure. That doesn't make you not normal. That makes you strong." "I don't feel strong." "Strength rarely feels like strength in the moment. It feels like surviving. And you did that. You're still doing that." She watched me for a long moment. Then she leaned her head carefully against my shoulder. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For being here." That alone made every mile of the last decade worth it. That afternoon, Claire Monroe stopped by again for a wellness check. She looked at Maya's relaxed posture on the couch,
the half-finished sketchbook open beside her, and nodded in quiet satisfaction. "How are you feeling today?" she asked. Maya closed her sketchbook. "Better. Still scared sometimes. That's normal. Healing isn't a straight line. I know." Claire sat with us at the kitchen table and reviewed the next steps. An in-depth CPS report, a 4-custody evaluation, background checks, interviewing teachers, neighbors, old records, medical files. And then she dropped something unexpected. "Evan," she said, flipping a page in her folder, "the court approved a review of the original custody case. That includes examining claims of forgery, manipulation, and false testimony." My stomach tightened. "You mean—" "Yes. If Derek falsified statements, or if Karen knowingly supported false accusations, the consequences could be serious." I looked at Maya, unsure how she'd feel. She looked down at the table, quietly twisting her fingers. "I don't want them to go to jail," she whispered. Claire softened. "This isn't about punishment. It's about accountability, and about understanding how the system failed you both." Maya stayed silent. Claire reached into her bag and pulled out a small card. "This is a therapist who specializes in teen trauma and family reunification. No pressure, just think about it." Maya took the card gently. When Claire left, Maya sighed heavily. "They're really going to dig into everything, aren't they?" "Yes," I said, "but that's not your burden. You told the truth. Everything else is on them." She nodded slowly. "I just want to feel safe." And I promised myself in that moment that she always would. That evening, after dinner, Maya sat on the balcony wrapped in a blanket. The air was cool and the pine trees whispered softly in the wind. I brought her a mug of hot chocolate and sat beside her. She smiled faintly. "Thanks." For a while, neither of us spoke. Then, out of nowhere, she asked, "Why did you stop trying?" My chest tightened. "Trying how?" "Trying to contact me," she clarified. "After a few years, the letters stopped." I stared at the mug in my hands. "I didn't stop," I said quietly. "I just stopped sending." She turned toward me, eyebrows drawn. "Where are they?" she whispered. "In a box. In my closet." She swallowed hard. "Can I read them?" I nodded. "Whenever you're ready." She wrapped the blanket tighter around herself. "Derek said you forgot about me. He said you ran off to start a new life." "That was a lie," I said, voice steadily. "Every day without you felt wrong. Every day I wondered if you hated me. If you grew up believing I abandoned you." Her voice cracked. "I did. For a long time. And that wasn't your fault. You were told lies by people you should have been able to trust." She wiped her cheek with her sleeve. "I'm sorry." "You have nothing to be sorry for," I whispered. We sat there quietly for a moment. Then she leaned against me again. "Dad, can we make new memories now?" My breath caught. "Yeah," I said softly. "We can make all the memories you want." The days that followed were slow but meaningful. Maya chose a bed frame for her room. A soft gray one with a headboard she said looked peaceful. She picked pale blue bedding because it felt calming. She chose string lights for the wall, a small desk, a bookshelf. I helped build everything. She handed me screws, held pieces steady, made jokes when I dropped the screwdriver for the 5th time. When we finished setting up the room, she stood in the doorway, staring at it with a strange mixture of pride and disbelief. "This is mine?" she whispered. "Yes," I said, "all yours." Her eyes watered. "I've never had a room that felt like me." "Well," I said carefully, "now you do." She hugged me. Not a tentative hug, not a fearful hug, a full, honest, trembling hug. A week later, she started therapy with the specialist Claire recommended. I waited outside the room during their sessions, listening to the soft murmur of her voice. Sometimes she came out teary-eyed, sometimes relieved, sometimes quiet. But every time she came out, she reached for my hand. Every time. Karen tried calling once. Maya didn't answer. Derek tried texting from a different number. Maya deleted the message without opening it. They both sent letters, long, panicked, desperate letters, begging her to return, claiming that she'd destroyed their family, pleading that she forgive, and promising things would change. She set the envelopes aside, unopened. "I'll read them someday," she said, "but not now." I nodded. "It's your choice." She smiled faintly. "Thank you for saying that." 2 weeks later, Claire stopped by for another home visit. She looked in a mirror, returned. "I think I'm ready." "Ready for what?" "Ready to read the letters." That night, we sat on the living room floor, a cardboard box between us. The letters were worn around the edges, envelopes yellowed, some creased, some bent, some stained from tears shed years ago. Maya opened the first one gingerly. Her eyes moved across the page. Then the next, and the next. Sometimes she cried. Sometimes she laughed softly. Sometimes she leaned against me. Sometimes she froze in heartbreak. Halfway through the box, she whispered, "You never stopped loving me." "Never," I said. She kept reading. When she finished the last one, she placed it gently on the pile. Then she crawled closer and hugged me with both arms, burying her face in my shoulder. "I'm home," she whispered, and for the first time in 10 years, I finally believed her.